In this video, I will be teaching you how to recreate this color blocking design. For today's video, I'll be using Pro Base, Activator, Finish Gel, Eucalyptus, Calica, and Thea. I'll also be using a buffing block, a 180 grit nail file, a cuticle pusher, a makeup brush, tape, swatch sticks, and a dotting tool. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be using a swatch stick to recreate this color block design. So normally you would start by buffing the shine off of your natural nail. You would use a nail file to shape your nail. You would push back your cuticles, dehydrate the nail, and prep and clean it to get it ready for application. To start, I am going to pull off a piece of tape that's about 1 inch long. I like to start in the corner of the nail where it's easiest to make a straight line and to have something to line it up against. So it's very important to make sure that your tape lays flat, that you don't have any air bubbles at the edge. So make sure when you put your tape down that it's laying completely flat on the nail and that you push out any bubbles that you see. The first section I'm going to be doing is Calica. I like to make sure that my layers are nice and thin so you can see I get as much liquid off of my brush as possible. It's okay if the Pro Base gets onto the tape. You want to make sure that you are getting Pro Base all the way up to the tape, so it's best to put just a little bit over on top of it. For this method, I like to use swatch sticks to pour it over top of the nail. Also, you'll see that I'm going to let the powder sit on the nail for just a minute to let it set into the Pro Base before I brush it off. So here you can see that's the first layer. So next you're going to dust off any excess powder back into your jar or on your paper plate. And for the sake of this video, I am only going to be doing 2 layers of each color, but it's okay if you decide you want to do 3. And as you can see, I do have product up on the tape, and I did this so that I made sure my colors are at the tape line. You want to make sure that it overlaps just a little bit so it does go all the way up to the line. And again, I'm using my swatch stick to pour the powder over top of the nail, and I'm gonna let that product sit for just a minute before I dust it off. Okay, so here is our second and final layer. So if you were going to be doing a 3rd layer of dip powder, you would just continue those same steps and do it one more time before pulling your tape off. So now it's time for us to pull the tape off, and I like to pull the tape down and away from the nail. And you can see that some of the product does lift with the tape, but that's okay because we are going to shape that free edge and apply activator so that we can buff it and smooth it so the next layer applies nice next to it. So here is your first section on your color block design. So to get that nice crisp line, I like to use a cuticle pusher to push the product back into this section so that my next section lines up against it nicely. So next you're going to apply activator to this first section and make sure that you are getting that open free edge area because we're going to buff it and make it really nice and smooth. So after 2 minutes have passed and your activator is done drying, you're going to buff that open free edge and make it nice and smooth so that your next section can lay up against it flat. The next section I'm going to be doing is for eucalyptus, so you'll need to get your next piece of tape, and I again will be lining up in a corner. It's just easier for me to see and to make a nice straight line, and make sure that your tape is laying flat, that you don't have any air bubbles, and it's okay if it overlaps on top of calico or whatever color you're choosing for your first layer, because you've activated it, so it's not going to remove any powder or any product on it. So now we're ready to start our second section, and for this section I'm going to be using eucalyptus. As you can see, I am using my Pro Base and going all the way up to calico. You want to make sure that the liquid is touching your first layer but not overlapping your first layer. You want the colors to be meeting each other but not overlapping on top of each other. So next I sprinkle eucalyptus onto that corner of my nail, and as you can see I'm doing a lot of it. I want to make sure that it's fully covering it, and I'm also putting it on top of calico. It's not going to hurt calico or change the integrity of the color. It's just making sure that I'm getting it all the way up to that free edge. So now that it's nice and dry, I'm going to brush off my excess powder, and there we have it, our first layer for our second section on our color blocking design. So now you're going to do your second layer of eucalyptus, and just be very careful that when you are applying Pro Base to the line where eucalyptus and calico meet, that you're going very slow, and again putting it up against calico but not overlapping calico. Brush off any excess powder, and here you have it. This is your second and final layer of eucalyptus. Now it's time to pull our tape back off of our second section, and as you can see I'm going nice and slow, and even though there is product lifting with the tape, that's okay because we're going to use our cuticle pusher and we're going to reshape this line so that it's nice and crisp. Now it's time to use your cuticle pusher so you can push the product back into your second section to give it a straight line. Next, we need to add activator to eucalyptus. Now it's time to buff the free edge so that we have a smooth, straight line. Our next section is going to be Thea, so I am using the Pro Base to go very slowly up next to eucalyptus and not overlapping it, but just touching right up against it. And you'll see I do the same over for next to calico because I want to focus on these lines so that I don't put Pro Base anywhere where I don't want it. To get down into that little corner, I like to use a dotting tool and to pull the Pro Base straight into those lines. Now we're ready to do our second and final layer of Thea. So with Pro Base, I am going straight up against eucalyptus again, focusing on the lines where they meet. I'm doing the same over next to calico and being extra careful that I do not put Pro Base on eucalyptus or on calico. With my dotting tool, I pull Pro Base down into the corner so I make sure that I get Thea all the way there. Now it's time to apply activator across the entire nail. After 2 minutes and the activator is dry, you can buff the nail smooth. Now it's time to file and shape your nail. Now it's time to apply your second and final layer of activator. The next step is to apply finish gel across the entire nail. Once the finish gel is dry, you can apply your second and final layer of finish gel. And here's the finished product. I hope that you enjoyed this video and I hope that it was helpful. If you recreate this design, I would love for you to tag me in it so I can see what beautiful colors you pick. And thank you for watching.